Jets 2 in Cleveland now. Fox Sports NFL analyst, 3 rings with the Patriots. Eric Mangini is joining us live from New York. Let's start with the Jets because we are in New York. I've said this before. We've gone from 28 padded practices to 16 with the new CBA. And I've never talked more offensive lines in the last 5 years because there's so many bad ones and there's so few great ones. And so 16 padded practices, when you got musical chairs and new guys, isn't a lot. Yesterday, the Jets offense was a mess. Go back to your years with the Jets and the Browns, first couple of days of camp. What do you make when you have just an absolute stinker?
Yeah, I look back at my notes and after my first year at the Jets, because we had a pretty bad practice early in training camp. And so I would keep notes on an Excel spreadsheet, throughout the course of the season. And the next season go back and I look at it, and we had another stinker early in practice. It's part of the early process at camp. And what happens is you start to get a little bit fatigued. The defense is putting in more pressure packages, more blitzes, more looks, disguising. So the communication has to ramp up. And when you've got a new offensive line, they haven't worked together. You're subbing guys in and out. You're getting to know each other. And now you're getting volume after volume of challenges from the defensive side. That leads to guys jumping off sides. It leads to the ball on the ground, some sloppiness that's really frustrating, but not abnormal for the early part of practice.
Yeah. You sort of look at Caleb Williams, and I like him. My knock on him was at times in college, he could be moody. I saw that at Oregon State. He was very emotional and moody, which isn't the worst thing in the world if you care about something. My second thing was sometimes there was a little ad-lib component where I felt like there was open stuff and he was out of structure. And now yesterday he's talking about, I don't believe in pressure. And I'm like, oh boy. What are your early, you're shaking your head. What are your early opinions on what you see and hear with Caleb?
Look, just because you're drafted number 1 doesn't make you any more experienced than any other rookie, and you don't have to have profound thoughts on every aspect of sports. You're going through this process and you're learning like everybody else, and that's my fear with Caleb as well. Is he made so many of those wow plays in general, but then he made a bunch of wow plays while he was outside of the pocket, when he was extending plays, when he was making something happen. Which is great, but you have to understand that these guys now are faster. They close faster than they did in college. They anticipate better than they did in college, and they hit harder than they did in college. So every time you're extending plays, you're putting yourself at risk. And if you're hurt, you can't help the team at all. So every play doesn't have to be a highlight play. He's got to make sure that he's not doing too much in order for him to be able to do the things that he wants to do. And I feel like we have this discussion a lot, especially with mobile quarterbacks. They need to know how to slide. They need to know how to throw the ball away and live to fight another day. And guys, especially high draft picks, they want to just make plays, always make plays, and it's too risky at times.
So you can have, when you go to camp, you can have 2 corners fighting it out for the slot corner. Or you can have, 2 kickers fighting it out. You kind of want to know your quarterback. If you go into camp and you're not sure, it's not great. So I've said the Pittsburgh thing, there's 2 components here. Number 1, listen, I'm just going off what I read and see. Russell's not exactly a unifier of a locker room. Whereas Justin Fields, to the very end in Chicago, was loved by the players. One of them's rich. One of them's viewed as a little inauthentic. One of them is young. One of the guys, not paid much. And by the way, bigger, faster, and more athletic in his prime. And I say to myself, you can't lie to players. And I bet you Justin Fields a hell of a practice player. Now, I'm not denying Russell's better today as a quarterback, but I'm saying to myself, when Russell gets hurt and dinged, and here comes Justin taking first-team snaps for 2 days, this feels like you get to a 2-game losing streak in week 4 and 5, and that locker room is not going to sit back when they like Justin more. Am I reaching here? Can you sense some of that potentially happening?
No, I don't think you're reaching at all. And what I love about this situation in Pittsburgh is they got both those guys for what Joe Flacco costs.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got two guys who've been talented, who have had different levels of success, and can contribute things stylistically very differently, but can contribute in a meaningful way. My argument would be that you should have a package and play them both. There is no reason not to take advantage of Justin Fields' skill set if he's not the starter. And Russell Wilson can bring a bunch of stuff to the table if he's not the starter. And I understand the argument, if you don't have a if you have multiple quarterbacks, then you don't have any quarterback. That's true in a normal situation. But to use both guys puts so much pressure on a defense. You have to prepare for each guy's skill set. You only have a limited time in practice. It can be easy for Pittsburgh and hard on their opponents, and you can get the benefit and the upside of both players. It's not traditional, it's not conventional, but there's been wildcat quarterbacks. There's been this pattern historically. I'm saying use it even more than small packages. Use it in big doses.
All right, so the players vote on the top 100. Now, I believe that an owner should own, a GM should GM, a coach should coach, and a player should play. But star players, sometimes Aaron Rodgers may say, I want this guy, that guy. Brady says, get me Gronk. I get it. All right, whatever. But I generally think it's hard enough to be a great coach. It's hard. Andy Reid pretty much says, Brett Veach, you do it. I'm not, I'll give you my opinion. But, I look at Brock Purdy. Players voted him. Players as the 28th best player in the league, above Goff, Stafford, Herbert, Love, Burrow, Aaron Rodgers. What do you make? I won't even have an opinion. What do you make of that?
When it came out, I actually thought this was a very positive thing for Brock Purdy, in the sense that you're right. GM should be the GM, coach should be the coach, right on down the line. But the fact that his peers feel this highly about him, these are guys that played against him, these are guys that played with him, these are guys that watched him on tape when they were could be getting ready for someone else. So they've seen him, and for them to have that level of respect, to place him above the guys that you listed, to me is significant. And I can't say definitively where Brock Purdy is, and there's the argument that he's a function of the head coach, the players that are around him, and the organization I don't think really knows where Brock Purdy is either. But when your peers feel that strongly about you, that's pretty good praise. That's pretty high praise.
J-Mac and I got pushback yesterday. You were more for Tua than I was, J-Mac, but my take was he's the only high-paid quarterback with an asterisk, which is, you can't play him in cold, windy weather. Well, welcome to the AFC in January and February. The average AFC championship game the last 5 years has been played in 33 degrees and wind. And so I would, forget the injuries, I would just if he played in the NFC, Detroit's good, San Francisco, L.A., there's a lot of teams that are good that could play inside. But in the AFC, 50 degrees and under, coach, he's not even a backup. That's below Tebow.
Well, that's one component of it. So and that's real. The injury issue is real, and it's hard to take that out of the mix. But he had the anti-Jordan Love season last year. So they're 10-1 against teams that aren't in the playoffs. They're 1-6 against teams that are in the playoffs. They lose 3 out of their last 5 games. I think it's only the 4th time in NFL history where a team had a 3-game lead to win the division with 5 games to go and have ended up losing the division. And then in his last 3 games, he throws 5 picks. He's got a 70 quarterback rating and 2 60s quarterback rating in the 60s. And it's exactly the opposite of the trajectory of Jordan Love. So that's a concern too.
Yeah.
It's the cold weather, it's the injuries. And then last year down the stretch, it wasn't only not very good, it was bad down the stretch.
Yep.
And then you add in the mirage of what the season was. When you're 10-1 against non-playoff teams and you're 1-6 against playoff teams, that's not what you'd think of for a big contract extension.
Yeah. I think the standard in Green Bay is Super Bowls. I think the standard in Miami is non-chaos because for 20 years they watched the Patriots dominate it, and now the last 4 they've watched the Bills dominate it, and what they want to be is viable. So I think Stephen Ross maybe looks at that, and I mean, am I nuts here? The standards are different in the NFL. I think Miami looks at it and thinks, we had Brady and we have Allen. Can we be a wild card team? Can we be fun to watch? It feels like that's what they're betting on, which is they won't be in chaos at quarterback.
See, but I don't think so. I think Stephen Ross he's tired of looking at the Patriots win. He's tired of looking at the Bills win. And they've done things to try to get it right. They go out and make a giant move with Tyreek Hill and between the draft picks and the money, they've poured money into that offense. They go and add OBJ this offseason. It's not like they haven't made moves to try to take the division over. And look, they should have, by all accounts, won the division last season. I think if anything, Stephen Ross will do whatever it takes for them to win the Super Bowl. They just can't quite find the right formula.
Eric Mangini, good seeing you as always, Coach.
Great seeing you, Colin.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.